Kobol. Welcome everyone to Housecoat Podcasting. I am your host, the Housecoat Gamer, and today I am joined by 117 Jorn.
What's up, y'all?
And Takashi Yamato, and today we are taking a look at the ships of Battlestar Galactica.
Specifically from the game Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. So, technically these are Cylon War era ships, but that doesn't
really be modernized.
They're enduring designs. Now we were planning on doing foxhole tanks until issues arise. So, moving along to the boats.
Yes.
Starting with probably the Manticore class Corvette. Though I believe Cutter.
Some of you viewers from Space Dock may be familiar with this design.
Yeah.
Well,
Space Dock is good at describing ship designs in detail.
the Manticore was originally a police and patrol vessel, which explains its large size, despite the fact that it's a Corvette.
Right. It was made to...
It's a police ship.
Yeah,
it is
it's
effectively just a policing design taken whole stock for military service. So most of this is cargo bays for contraband, holding cells for prisoners, which explains the large size of the boat.
Yeah.
It has a single forward-facing chin gun, two anemic and rather pathetic for aft-facing dorsal guns, and a couple of VLS too, and a couple of horizontal launch tubes in the bow. Very fast, very maneuverable.
Very fast, very maneuverable, but not much in the way of guns.
Yeah.
Then again, it's a police... Then again, as Ron said, it's a police ship. It doesn't really need that... It didn't really need that many guns until the Cylon War cropped up.
Now, I could see a couple of ways to give this thing more armament, specifically replacing that single anemic chin gun with a nice twin-barrel blaster cannon of some sort. Couple of smaller turrets underneath, a couple of turrets on top, replacing those really... those light guns on the back. But it was just an emergency, therefore.
Yeah. And the Berserk Carrier.
Ironically, this thing's a lot more heavily armed than the mainstay of the Colonial Navy. Despite the fact that it has the armor of a twig.
The armor... So its armor is basically made of paper?
Yeah, more or less. Its sole job is to deliver a single squadron of aircraft, or 3, if you really want to be realistic about it, into the battle.
Yeah.
But it is by no means defenseless, but I would not want to take this thing into frontline service.
Right. Jump it into your rear lines. Well, I would have it in the front lines just as you're arriving. Jump in, disgorge all the fighters, and then jump a short distance into your rear lines.
That is effectively what this thing was meant to do, but in practice that's kind of impossible due to game mechanics.
Fair enough.
It first appeared in Battlestar Galactica Razor.
Right.
Meaning, this is actually a ship from the show.
Also adds credence to the idea that if this ship was able to survive the Silent War, then the other ship logically would be able to survive it.
With a
Yeah.
few exceptions, as we will delve into. This is the Adamant class frigate.
It's not that bad.
In the campaign, you will probably be using a great deal of these early on. I know I was forced to until I got my hands on far better warships.
Which we will get to.
My main problem with this design is those guns. They are light cannons. If the guns on the Berserk are effectively... what's a World War II equivalent? If those are 75mm cannons, these are 37s.
37, maybe. Yeah, that about matches up.
The guns on this thing are weaker than the guns on the Berserk.
And this
Which-
is supposed to be a frontline frigate-class vessel. Yes. It's still an upgrade over the Manicore. It does carry a single squadron, or 3, if, again, realistically, into battle.
Like, it's one major pro over the Berserk is the fact that, unlike the Berserk, it has a missile bay.
That too.
Right.
So if this thing, basically, all you really have to do is just take this ship, upgrade its main weapon batteries, and you immediately got a perfect successor to the Berserk.
Well, adding a few more guns wouldn't hurt. I mean, this
True.
thing is a broadsider.
Well, when you really look at Battlestar Galactica, there is a lot of broadside combat in that.
True, but there's also a lot of
Head-on stuff.
head-on, above, below. The only
Well, to be
combat... The
To
only
be fair, I think that was more of a balancing thing for game mechanics.
Well, they can still fire in almost every direction. Except aft.
I think that goes for all ships in Battlestar lore, because it's very hard to put guns on your engines.
Fair enough. Anyway. Next up. The Celestra Support.
Another design that was seen in the show.
Yes, and in the original series.
Oh, this looks like it's a repair ship.
It is.
Repair and research.
Repair and resupply. It has 2 slots, so you can re-equip it with things. For
Basically,
example,
these ships kind of served as like logistical vessels, like combat logistic vessels.
they've got repair drones to fix up armor, because that's a thing, as well as resupply raptors. Say you've run out of missiles, this thing will deliver a supply of whatever the hell it's carrying to your target.
Right, and I see that giant hangar bay in the bow.
Yep.
Is that a full through and through hangar, or is that just
No, just
No.
most of the way through.
right?
It would be an effective carrier if it weren't
Well-
for the fact that it doesn't have a through-deck carrier bay.
Yeah.
It has no weapons, but it's a support ship. It's not designed to slug it out.
Yeah.
She may not be the perfect ship, but she can certainly help out Galactica.
Yeah. And
I could see it with some proper modifications. I could argue that it could be used as like a pocket carrier, maybe. But like Viper pilots would have to be very careful when it comes to landing and taking off of it.
Very.
yeah. And the Ranger.
This is not a ship that appeared in the series, but I can certainly see it actually being there.
This ship
Yeah.
is effectively a guided missile cruiser. Like think the Ticonderoga class ships.
The Ticonderoga, this is probably going to be kind of bad, but the Moskva.
The Moskva.
The class The class serves effectively the same role.
Right. Just spams a bunch of missiles at a target.
Pretty much. But unlike those, it actually has more guns. In fact, it has a number of medium guns on the broadsides and on the bottom.
Huh. But
So,
yeah, I did like that open hangar bay on the Celestia.
Celestra.
The Celestra. I mean, the fact that it was lit up, that almost makes me think it was like a magnetic catapult or something, and that that honestly makes me think Gundam. That would be a perfect mobile suit launching catapult thing.
You wish. Anyway, this thing is designed to spam missiles, and considering it can fire missiles every turn, it and the Celestra would go hand in hand if it weren't for the fact that the Cylons love to jam things.
Yeah. Cylons were very good at electronic warfare. Next up is the Minotaur. This is a gunship.
More like a proper heavy cruiser or battleship.
I wouldn't call it a battleship. I like looking at its size. I honestly classify it as a battle cruiser personally.
Battle cruiser, battleship. Considering it's about the same size as the Artemis, which is a full-on battle star.
We'll get to that.
Yes, this is very much an Aquarian design. Simple, effective, and it has enough guns to basically render missile warfare pointless. Go ahead, try. You can't jam guns. You can't jam artillery shells.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ships in BSG Deadlock.
Fair enough. Alright, next. The
This
Janus Cruiser.
is an old one.
Now this is a heavy cruiser right here.
Yeah, it also has missiles out the rear end. I would almost call it perfect. Almost. It lacks dorsal weaponry, so if you want to get above it, you're going to be able to hit it. But this thing is also armored out the rear end.
So, this thing is... So, if you get above it, you can pound on it with impunity, but it's gonna take you a while to get through that armor and into the important bits.
To quote Sin and Quaid, it would take a nuke to get through that many layers of armor. And it often did take a nuke to get through that many layers of armor. Or a bunch of Revenant gunships. I hate those things.
Right.
Lots of thick armor, itty bitty little splitting filling space.
But this thing also has 3 launch bays, so if you want to put 3 nukes in here, you have 3 targets to destroy.
Right. Next up, the Atlas Carrier.
Yeah, this is the largest and most lightly armed ship in the game that isn't Cylon.
Right. It mostly just... it is a proper carrier. It is a stereotypical carrier. It's big, has light armaments, and just spams fighters.
Honestly enough, though, for those of you who paid attention to the opening credits, the opening scene of Deadlock, you actually would notice that this thing's actually capable of flying in atmosphere. So this thing probably is not only your standard carrier, possibly also doubles as like a landing assault ship.
Could also be a mobile base.
Possibly.
Fair enough.
The
do like
only
that.
problem with the whole thing is its exceptionally light armament. It wouldn't be able to defend itself on the ground.
Yeah.
But that can easily be rectified with a retrofit.
Yeah. And the Heracles gunship.
Or as I like to call it, the Heracles battleship.
Yeah, that definitely fits, because look at the sheer number of guns. 8 dual battery artillery turrets on the bottom, and 8 on top. Multiple door knocker cannons, if I can get them. And it has a flat
knockers.
Haha. And flak projection. Go ahead, spam missiles. What's it gonna do? Turn to port or starboard, initiate a flak barrage. Boing.
Yeah, missiles ain't getting through that.
This also appeared in Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome, so it's another ship from the series.
Nice. And next, the Orion frigate.
The hero ship of Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome, due to its stealthiness. The Battlestar Osiris, which also has a very kick-ass Last Stand battle theme. This is effectively just a frigate. I have no idea why they even bothered calling it a Battlestar. Because
it's more like it's more like an escort Battlestar when you really think about it. But it's kind of like an escort Battlestar that also has stealth capabilities.
think of it like the SR-1 Normandy of Battlestars.
Essentially, yeah.
Right.
It even does it the same way because, well,
Yeah.
May not be as big as most Battlestars, but she certainly has the spirit of one.
and is far more maneuverable. During the Battle of Jerba, the Osiris managed to actually outmaneuver most missiles and slam into the enemy ship, right before blowing itself to pieces with a nuclear explosion.
Right. And next,
Another ship from the series.
Defender support.
I'm pretty sure it was missing the pod, but the ship
Nope,
was...
it had the pod. It always had the pod.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was missing the pod in the series, but
no, I don't think so.
But this ship first appeared in, well, the series proper during what I believe is the season finale. Lay down your burdens with the orbital fleet alongside Galactica and Pegasus.
Huh.
In fact, it is widely presumed, logically, that this is the Adriatic.
Huh.
And there's also another thing that this actually originally was a fan design, created around the time of the original series.
It certainly fits. I mean, look at that flight pod.
Yeah, like it was originally, like, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but like a fan originally made the design and they snuck it into the into Battlestar Reimagined series as a bit of an Easter egg.
Interesting.
Speaking of Easter eggs, though, you know what other ships were seen in the fleet?
Yes, I know, the Enterprise and the Serenity.
Yep.
Oh.
If they had the freaking Enterprise in that group, you think the leave them the hell alone.
Yeah.
Easter eggs are fun, but before we move up to the fun stuff,
the Viper Mark 1.
otherwise known as the TOS Viper. To a point.
Right.
Yeah, these were the standard fighters of the colonial fleet during the original series. Of course, here they've been upgraded with armor and downgraded by using kinetic energy weapons, which I presume are 20 to 30 millimeter cannons.
Right.
20 or 30 millimeter sounds fair.
I am,
Yeah.
however, going to get into a slight issue. Where the hell is the ammunition?
Probably in the fuselage.
That applies to every Viper, though. Because Space Dock did have a point. Those things seemingly had infinite numbers, an infinite amount of ammo in those things.
Yeah.
And there's gotta be room for RCS, fuel, most definitely fuel,
Yeah.
avionics. None of that stuff is tiny.
Yeah. It's known as space magic can only get you so far.
Which has become a bit of a point of contention between me and Jorn, but for the sake of civility, I will not bring that up here. But it is a good question to ask, because I'd like to see a cutaway one of these things.
Yeah, cutaway to see what kind of ammo they have. And here we have the Raptor.
This is not the Raptor as seen in, well, the series.
This is the Cylon War era Raptor.
It's not even the one that showed up in Blood and Chrome.
But you see the similarities because it does have that rear gun hatch.
Yes, it does. I will give it that. But the one in Blood and Chrome had, well, thrust vectoring engines. It could literally spin its engines around to assist in braking.
Well, to be fair, look, the one that we're seeing right now, like this one is actually from the early Cylon War period onward. So, like the one that we saw in Blood and Chrome, that may have been like a later war design.
And the one we see in the series is a much more evolved variant.
Yeah.
In fact, we could call this thing the E1 Hawkeye, while the Blood and Chrome version is the E2 E2B, while the one we see in the series is the C model.
Right.
Still, they all perform the same job.
They are heavy bombers, gunships,
And
boarding craft.
And SWACs.
Yeah.
One ship, many roles.
Viper Mark II, a slightly improved version.
The one we mostly see in BSG proper.
Yeah.
I would have been honestly happy if this was just there from the beginning, but it's not.
This is... I remember some of your earlier vids. This is something you have to unlock, right?
Yep. It's far more maneuverable, far more capable, and, well, generally nasty.
Yeah.
It does come at a cost of losing 2 fighters, but when you think about it, this thing's better in almost every way.
Yeah. Sweepers.
Yeah, you can obviously see where this comes from. This is basically a decoy ship. Hi, you have guided missiles. Screw you.
Yeah.
I mean, the design fits. It really does.
Fair enough.
Of course, this is also a deadlock-only vessel.
Right. Assault Raptor.
This thing is basically the bomber you were speaking of. There is another Raptor that performs
Not really a bomber, more of more of like a gunship.
It performs more or less the same role.
Yeah, it just packs a whole lot of extra firepower on and unloads that firepower.
I guess you could call this the... I don't think the Navy actually has a assault version of the Greyhound. But
Hmm.
if there was an AWACS version of the Hercules, this would be the AC-130. I'm trying to find a general comparison. I know
If
this
I were to
thing.
pull a comparison, I'd say like if your regular Raptor is the if your regular Raptor is a Blackhawk, this thing's the Apache.
They're more or less.
Right.
I think
That
they're built by
works
this.
compared to helicopters. It sort of works.
Raptors effectively are basically space helicopters.
And
And-
Taipan.
This is a Kobolian design.
Kobolian design, though, has a very colonial aesthetic to it. And
Consider-
this is basically a strike bomber. Like, if you want a real-world example, think
the A.
the A-10 is a good example, as well as the A-6.
The A6 is completely unarmed. This thing actually has guns.
Right.
If you want a real
that-
comparison with guns, I'd say the
Sky
A1
Raider.
Sky Raider, maybe the A4.
Right. That chrome look, though.
Yeah, that's why I said it's Kobolian. It was
Ah.
designed by the Kobolians, who are the ancestors of the Colonials.
Yeah.
And
Def-
you unlock them during the Resurrection campaign, I believe it is.
Huh.
Yeah, you recover them near the galleon.
Right. But yeah, that definitely also gives me like a Royal Naboo vibe.
And-
I could see that.
Well, now it's time for the fun ones.
Ooh, the Artemis Battlestar.
With a few tweaks, this was originally the TOS Battlestar.
Huh.
This is where it all started, ladies and gentlemen.
Looks pretty neat.
It is. It is the ancestor of all Battlestars, and presumably not in service by the time of the fall, which is sad.
I don't see a reason why it wouldn't still be in service. These things make for, I'd say that in a real world setting, like I would place an Artemis at the same role as say a sort of like a variable carrier. Maybe like something like trying to think of, because there was a proposed version of the Nimitz class that was like a smaller version of itself. I could see that filling that same role.
I say that due to the fact that this thing was just so hard to refit.
Right. It's like
It would
If-
be like trying to refit the... What's a ship I'm thinking of? The Freedom class with the new gearboxes. There's a reason that 9 of those ships have been completely retired.
right.
It would require actually gutting them to put everything back in, and that's what it would take to bring these things up to the same standards as, say, the Jupiter. It's just cheaper to build a bunch of Valkyries.
Right.
Budgets. But
Yeah.
this thing is better than the Adamant in every way.
More guns, bigger guns.
2 fighter
And-
squadrons. It still retains the same missile slot, but it has bigger guns. It has more guns. 2 fighter squadrons instead of 1. And you can actually shoot in almost every direction instead of just being limited to broadsiding like the Adamant.
Make one argument, like even if these things aren't in active service in like the general colonial fleet, you could make an argument that maybe
Training ships?
maybe they kept a few in reserve as training ships.
We really need to figure out this mental link, because this keeps happening.
Yeah, like you could like make it so they were training ships, kind of like in the same vein as the USS Constitution.
Except a hell of a
Right.
lot more combat capable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Minerva Battlestar.
The Mercury's ancestor. Oh, we'll be getting into that soon enough. Glass cannon ship. has almost no armor, but has more guns than almost any ship in the fleet. It also has.
This is effectively a battle cruiser, battle star, basically.
Think like the modern version of the Iowa class. Those actually had Tomahawk missiles, as well as their huge 16-inch guns.
Gotcha.
And as a consequence, they also have fighter squadrons. This thing also has 2 ordnance pylons, as well as flak projection like every other Battlestar.
Fair enough. Looks pretty cool.
And any BSG fan is going to be going, I love this ship because it looks just like the Mercury. But then we get to this thing.
Dun 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 dun.
Come on.
Dun 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 dun.
The Jupiter class Battlestar. Arguably the most heavily armed and best ship in the early game. The first campaign, this thing was the last ship you could ever unlock. And considering the fact it has more armor, more guns, 3 fighter squadrons after an update, though one of them was more a utility type, it was the best ship.
Yeah.
Of course, technically, this did not appear in the series.
Technically, no. I mean, Galactica was...
This is the Mark I version of the Jupiter.
That's why I said technically. I was about to move on, because there's a better version. The Jupiter 2. I was about to make a Lost in Space joke. It was the Jupiter 2, because it definitely got lost in space. It's a dumb joke. It's a dad joke, but it works. And this is Galactica as seen in the series.
Correction,
Well,
that's Galactica as seen in the series before they had all of their armor plating removed.
Yeah, that makes me sad in so many ways.
Makes it sad though. It also kind of gives you a bit of nostalgia whenever Galactica gets shot up in battle. You can slowly see like, because looking at it, it does look like Galactica. It looks too clean. Get a shot up and be like, oh, there he is. There's Galactica.
That is so sad, though. Just ripping off all that armor plating.
Hey, she got. Hey, the old lady likes showing her skin.
And Q-face palm. Compliments to the corner guy who that line originally came from.
I am going to have to exit the whole ship thing here because 2 designs 3 technically do not show up in the series in the main game.
Which is fucking stupid.
Well, to be perfectly blunt, it does involve a little bit of time travel nonsense.
Yeah.
Now, who's going to be my victim? This will also allow us to
See some of these things in actual combat.
It will not end well for the Cylons.
When does ever end good for them?
This is gonna be fun.
They got lucky one time, and ever since then, they just kept fucking it up.
Gotta love FTL drives. Behold. The Mercury class.
Pull off that green wave.
Understood.
There we go. The big
that's-
lady herself.
That's the Mercury.
The most heavily armored, and advanced ship in the fleet.
Yes, sir.
She is all the lessons. She is most of the lessons learned from the
Launching
from
fighters.
Galactica during the war. She has all the best technology. She could even build Vipers and Raptors on the fly if it really needed to. This is the ship that they needed the most in the series, and some stupid little kid decided to go use it as a battering ram on a base ship.
We are very fond of the Battlestar Pegasus.
Not so much as crew, and not so much as captain.
Yeah.
I have one problem with the Mercury class.
It doesn't have any broadside guns.
No, it's all broadside. All of the guns are in that little trench area. Now, the ones mounted underneath are supposed to be mounted actually inside the launch bays. They're all in a singular trench. There are no ventral or dorsal weapons.
So
Which is-
this thing,
Which is very strange when you really think about it, because this is basically the successor to the Minerva class. And Minerva, correct me if I'm wrong, that did have the dorsal and ventral guns, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
So why did they take a design step backwards? It kind of confuses me.
In fact, that's
Yeah.
kind of why I have a Minerva below the Mercury, and a Mercury above it. So it's a very nice design comparison between the two.
yeah.
I can only assume that the reason is maybe the budget cuts from the Adar administration, maybe?
Screw Adar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, there is this
I
little
would
beauty.
like to say that before we move on, that one of the best things they probably could have done for the Mercury is if they had just taken the merged both the Mercury and the Minerva designs together, they may have had a ship more heavily armed and armored than even Galactica.
And now we're going into a ship that's a little bit controversial. The Valkyrie class. This is mostly due to its only appearance in the series due to a flashback. However, it also appeared during the Cylon War in Blood and Chrome. Some would consider this an anachronism. Me, I just go with what's shown, and if Valkyrie was there, Valkyrie was there.
I mean, there's no reason for people to say it wasn't there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, there was the fact that it was considered quote-unquote better than Galactica in the series by one of its pilots. That could have just been pride in the ship. Fully admitting.
Yeah.
That said,
Let's bring these things into action, shall we?
Time to make a bunch of mama toasters cry.
alright. I'm
Here's
aware.
the-
I'm aware.
Yes, sir.
All right.
The Mark 7 Viper.
If we were to give this thing a real world equivalent, I would say this is like the F-22 of the Viper series,
Well, not really.
or maybe the F-16. It depends.
That would be the more accurate one. If the Mark 1 was the F-86, the Mark 2 would be a far more maneuverable version of the F-4. Well, this thing would probably be either the F-6, the F-15, or the F-16. Fun fact, the original Viper is what gave them the F-16 its nickname. Why everyone calls it the Viper is because of BSG. Its official name is Fighting Falcon.
Yeah. Alright.
Of course, I have one problem with skirmish mode. I can't mount Mark 7s onto every ship that has a fighter slot.
Right.
Drinks on the first nugget to lose their kill slot.
IFF confirms unit is hostile.
Back to the Valkyrie. It is a tiny, lightly armed design. And I say tiny because, well, the Colonial fleet needed smaller ships. Its real-world equivalent, I suppose, would be the Arleigh Burke class.
Huh.
In general role, I'm well aware it's a carrier.
I wouldn't say the Arleigh Burke class. I would say in general, this thing would be more aligned to the the Wasp class amphibious assault carriers, because they basically serve the same function as acting as light carriers, which is basically what the Valkyrie is.
Well, they're not exactly heavily armed, and I'm looking into their roles as not just carriers, but warships.
Right. Alright
Because,
then.
well, they're all carriers.
Yeah. Alright then. Let's get some...
This is going to end so very poorly.
for them.
Exactly.
Engage!
Alert squadrons to keep 53 by 84 free for
Missiles incoming!
sustained incoming.
Squadron has gone dark.
Okay.
Target
Squadron
the
target
raiders.
is confirmed.
Oh, look at that! I see a bunch of...
I see a bunch of red.
hell. I knew something was going to go stupid. It always does.
Yes, sir.
Relax, you can just move them.
And they're not... And fortunately, I can live with the destruction. Besides...
Just gotta move them around a little bit. You just gotta move them a little bit.
Target acquisition. Give me manual control now.
Oh, look at that!
Boing, 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 boing.
Couple inverted
Yes, sir.
Ys. And then a couple of discs.
Those are Cylon vessels, which we will be discussing next time.
On it, Commander.
Alright.
Of course, you do realize, they're all doomed.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm hit! I'm hit! Solution updated. Target acquisition maintained.
Go ahead, keep firing. It's not gonna do you any good. See? Of course, now I'm just gonna make it worse. That poor Guardian base star.
Centurions have boarded one of our ships. Missiles incoming!
Target lock
Boing,
firing.
boing, boing,
Watch your
boing,
six.
boing, 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 boing. I don't want to lose my ship, so I'm gonna make matters worse for them. Oh, that poor Kratos, whatever. It's dead.
You mean Krampus?
It's not a bad design. That said, it's still a Cylon ship.
Exactly.
Minerva is taking damage.
Can't get back up.
Squadron has gone dark.
Alright. Now, the only ships I've actually lost have been due to my own, well, poor decision making than actual combat.
Yeah.
Firing on target.
Minerva is taking damage. Missiles incoming.
Watch for spirit.
Squadron has gone dark. We've lost a Minerva, sir.
Like I said, poor decision making. This ship is doomed. Though.
Get him, get him, get him!
We're taking sustained fire. I need flux reloads down.
Well, I lost a Valkyrie.
Where'd you get your license to pilot command battle stars, Ron?
So say we all.
This isn't the campaign mode where it actually matters.
This is just a...
This is me more or less screwing around and
having some fun.
Ron.
Yes, yes, I'm aware. I'm actually trying to recreate it. Cylons always like to ruin my day. To be perfectly blunt, I did make quite a few screw-ups here.
But, again, this is just...
If I really wanted to do something... If I really actually wanted to do something good, I would have done it.
Yeah.
Because all of these ships kind of suck. The Cylon ones, that is.
That's no. I was about to say.
Yeah. Silent ships suck. But, yeah. Oh well. This is just screwing around
Indeed.
to have fun.
Speaking of,